Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. Harrison Mitchell sits at the black walnut desk in his plush office, intently scrutinizing the drawings for his latest architectural project. His long fingers gently traced the perfect lines that would be transformed into another of his masterpieces, a modern art gallery showcasing his innovative design concepts. As the city's most prestigious architect, he has an almost paranoid obsession with every detail. The laptop interrupted his thoughts with a sudden soft click. "You have received a new message from Emily," read the notification displayed on the screen. Harrison clicked it open, expecting to see notifications of her daughter's routine after-school activities. What came into view, however, were four simple yet powerful words that shook his entire world. "Dad, check your computer." He found an ordinary-looking folder on his desktop called Important Documents. Inside were dozens of screenshots, text messages, and emails, all captured by his daughter Emily. These are from Charlotte's cell phone, recording private conversations between her and real estate developer Nathan Brooks. Nathan is often present at their social gatherings, and now Harrison understands why. "I love you, Nathan. Harrison will never be able to understand me the way you do." A message read, "Leave him, and I'll give you everything you want." Nathan's reply stung Harrison's eyes. Harrison's fingers clenched around the edge of the table, his knuckles white with exertion. 15 years of marriage torn apart by betrayal on a black and white screen. The messages go back months, and each one is an elaborate deception. A soft knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. "Dad?" Emily's voice was soft as a whisper. "Come in, honey." Harrison struggled to keep his voice steady, despite the storm going on inside. Emily walked in, her dark hair neatly tied back in a ponytail, her father-like eyes watching him cautiously. At the tender age of 15, she showed maturity beyond her years. "How long have you known?" Harrison asked, keeping his composure. "For 3 months," Emily replied as she walked over to her father's chair. "I noticed Mom's unusual behavior when she was on her cell phone. She nervously puts away her cell phone whenever you're near. So I installed monitoring software on her device." Harrison turned to face his daughter fully. "You weren't supposed to take this on. Someone has to watch your back," Emily said firmly. "And Dad, I found out about my trust fund." Harrison's expression clouded. "What is it?" Emily pulls up another file, and the bank statement shows a record of systematic withdrawals. Charlotte has been secretly transferring funds, thousands of dollars at a time. "She's been withdrawing money for months," Emily explained. "Designer bags, jewelry, weekend trips with him." Harrison stood up slowly, his 6'2" frame stiff with suppressed anger. His thoughts flashed back to his wedding 15 years ago, Charlotte radiant in her white dress, promising forever. It was then that he believed and gave her everything she wanted. "Dad?" Emily's voice pulled him back to reality. "What are you going to do?" Harrison placed his hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Do nothing for now. We wait. Wait. But trust me, honey. Your mom thinks she's smart. Let's see how smart she really is." That night, Harrison kept to his usual routine. He prepared dinner, set the table for 3, and waited. Charlotte returned at 7 o'clock dusty, designer shopping bag in hand, her blonde hair perfectly tousled. "Sorry I'm late," she announced, not a hint of apology audible in her tone. The interior design consultation for the Brooks project ran a little long. Harrison watched her, observing how easily the lie escaped her lips. "How's Nathan doing these days?" he asked casually. "It's okay," Charlotte replied subconsciously, then stiffened, her blue eyes warily surveying his expression for any sign that might imply that he was in the know. "Dinner's ready," said Harrison, turning calmly. "Emily, come down and eat." During dinner, Harrison observes his wife. She did change, becoming tougher and greedier. The woman who once would have laughed at his jokes and supported his dreams now only sees him as a means to an end. At night, while Charlotte slept peacefully beside him, Harrison lay in bed tossing and turning. She thought she had it all planned out, taking his money, destroying her daughter's future, and running away with Nathan Brooks. What she doesn't realize is that Harrison Mitchell didn't build his reputation in the architectural world by being weak and predictable. The next morning, the confrontation finally came. Charlotte stood in their bedroom, loading expensive clothes into new suitcases, clothes he had bought her. "I want a divorce," she declared haughtily, her chin held high. "Nathan and I." "It's been months of planning," Harrison took over in an icy voice. "Did you think I wouldn't find out about the trust fund, Charlotte?" Her composure faltered for a moment. "You can't prove anything." Harrison let out a warmthless chuckle. "I don't need proof. You've done all the preparation." "What does that mean?" "You'll find out soon enough." Harrison turned to go and stopped. "Oh yeah, Charlotte. Remember how you said I was too focused on work to notice you? You're right. I'm focused on building eternal things, and you're focused on destroying." Charlotte's face reddened with anger. "You think you're too perfect, Harrison? Nathan is a man you will never be able to reach. He understands my value. No, he only knows the value of my money. There's a difference." Harrison's deep eyes fixed on her. "Pack your things and get the hell out of here. But remember this moment, Charlotte. Remember when you thought you'd won." He left the room, leaving Charlotte standing there, her perfectly manicured hands shaking with anger as she closed the zipper on her suitcase. Downstairs, Emily sat at the kitchen bar, her laptop open. "She's leaving," Harrison said calmly. Emily nodded, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "Don't worry, Dad. I've got it all taken care of." "What did you do?" A small smile of satisfaction played at the corner of Emily's mouth. "Wait and see." They didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, Charlotte's screams came through Harrison's cell phone. "What did you do?" She shouted hysterically. "All my accounts are frozen. My social media, everything is public. How dare you?" Harrison turned on the speakerphone so Emily could hear as well. "I didn't do anything, Charlotte. But it looks like our daughter inherited more than just my eyes. Settle this matter at once, or I swear dash." "What are you going to do?" Harrison's voice turned dangerous. "Keep stealing money from her trust fund? Defect to Nathan? Go right ahead, but remember, you're the one who taught her that loyalty means nothing, and don't be surprised at how well she learns." He hung up and looked over at his daughter. Emily sat up straight, unrepentant. "I posted everything, Dad. The texts, the photos, all the evidence. I tagged all her friends, her social circle, Nathan's business associates, and now everyone knows what they did." Harrison should have felt some regret or concern, but all he felt was a cold satisfaction. "Well done." "Nathan's wife has commented," Emily added. "And apparently we're not the only ones he's cheating on." Harrison nodded slowly. "Keep monitoring their reactions. I want all the details." Over time, the impacts are becoming apparent. Nathan's business partners begin to publicly distance themselves from him, and Charlotte's carefully crafted social media image falls apart amidst the scorn of friends and acquaintances. Their phones kept ringing with expressions of support and requests for explanations. That night, James Walker, Harrison's close friend and attorney, visited with a bottle of scotch and a stony look on his face. "I see what's happening," he said when Harrison let him in. "And tell me you have a plan." Harrison led him to the study where the conversation could be private. "I have a few plans." James poured them both drinks. "Harrison, I've known you for 20 years. I know that look. Whatever you're thinking, dash." "They're trying to take everything from me," Harrison interrupted. "My marriage, my daughter's future, my reputation. Do they think I'm going to take it all in like a good husband and father and choose to be noble? Maintaining nobility is reserved for those who have never been betrayed." There was a dangerous glint in Harrison's eyes. "You're either with me, James, or you're not, but don't try to dissuade me." James watched his friend for a moment, then nodded. "What do you need?" "Information. Everything about Nathan Brooks' business dealings. Every license, contract, partner. And Charlotte, I need to know exactly where that money went. It won't be cheap. Money is not the issue, justice is." Their conversation was interrupted by Emily, who came in clutching her laptop. "Dad, you have to see this. Nathan threatened to sue me for libel. He said he would destroy us." Harrison took the laptop and read Nathan's message. The arrogance of this man oozes through every word, not only threatening legal action, but also threatening personal retaliation. "He'll never touch you," Harrison assured his daughter. "James, how soon can we move her trust fund to safety?" "Give me 24 hours, James replied. "But Harrison, if you're planning the thing I'm thinking of..." I'm planning lessons to teach them about consequences. Harrison's voice is quiet but full of determination. They think they can play with my life, my family. Now they're going to learn what happens when you betray Harrison Mitchell. That night, after Emily had gone to bed and James had left with his task list, Harrison sat alone in his study. His desk is lined with architectural awards he has won over the years, each one a testament to his ability to see the big picture, plan, and execute. He picked up the phone and dialed a number reserved for emergencies. "Victor, it's Harrison Mitchell. I need your services to be discreet." He paused, listening to the other man. "Yes, it's about Nathan Brooks and my wife, ex-wife." Another pause. "No, Victor, I don't just want to win. I want to completely destroy them." After hanging up, Harrison allowed himself a smile. Charlotte and Nathan think they've written the ending of this story, and they're about to find out they've only written the beginning. In her room, Emily sat cross-legged on her bed with multiple screens spread out in front of her. She had been a quiet observer, learning strengths and weaknesses from both parents. From her father, she learned patience and precision. From her mother, she learned that trust once broken can never truly be repaired. Her fingers moved across the keyboard, setting up new monitoring protocols, creating alerts for any mention of their name online. She had protected her father once, and she would continue to protect him, no matter what happened next. And what was indeed going to happen, she could feel it in the way her father walked around the house now, in the steel beneath his calm words. Harrison Mitchell is planning something, and Emily knows that whatever it is, it's going to change everything. Across town, Charlotte sat in Nathan's plush apartment, tears smudging her mascara with rage. "He did this," she snarled, gripping her cell phone tightly. "Harrison did this to humiliate us." Nathan was pacing back and forth in the room as his own cell phone was ringing with messages pouring in from business associates and angry coworkers. "No, your little bitch of a daughter did this, and you're going to fix it. What's the solution? She's blocking me out of everything." "I don't care how." Nathan grabbed her shoulders roughly. "Do you realize how much this could cost me? My reputation, my contract." Charlotte breaks free and suddenly gets a clear view of Nathan's true colors. The charming man who promised her the whole world was gone, replaced by someone colder and harsher. "We're going to make them pay," she promised, more to herself than to him. Harrison thinks he's smart and in control. We'll show him what real pain is. What none of them realize is that they are doing exactly what Harrison has planned, and that their anger and desperation are pushing them in the direction he wants them to go. And Harrison, in his study, has begun to mobilize his pawns in preparation for a game of revenge that will leave no survivors. Sunlight pours into Victor Allen's spacious office through floor-to-ceiling windows, gilding the expensive mahogany desk. Harrison Mitchell sat in the leather seat, scrutinizing the stack of papers spread out on the table. Each page is like a sword pointing at the Achilles heel of Nathan Brooks' business empire, and each document reveals new and shocking vulnerabilities. Outside the window was the bustling business district that housed countless Nathan's projects, but soon that would all change. "Your friend James has done an outstanding job," Victor said, pointing to a particular document, his long, slender fingers pointing at key data. "These safety violations in Brooks' latest development, they're more than simple infractions. They're enough to constitute criminal negligence. Every corner cut could have jeopardized lives." Harrison's dark eyes scanned the report line by line, noting every detail with the same concentration he used when scrutinizing architectural drawings. "How soon can we move?" "An anonymous tip to the regulators?" Victor's thin lips curled into a predator-like smile, a winning gleam in his eyes. "They'll be on the scene tomorrow morning." "But Harrison, I must remind you that once we begin this process, there is no turning back. Every step must be executed perfectly." "I know." Harrison leaned forward with undeniable determination in his voice. "Nathan Brooks tried to take everything from me, and now I'm going to make him realize that it was the biggest mistake he ever made." The next morning, just as the sun was rising, Harrison stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of his downtown office. He watched as news vans poured in, one after the other, to Brooks Development's flagship project. The entire construction site was thrown into chaos as regulatory inspectors swarmed the site. Workers stopped what they were doing, limousines of investors and board members arrived, and reporters with cameras up scrambled to cover the sudden storm. His cell phone vibrated with a brief message from Emily. "Dad, Nathan's stock dropped 15% in the first hour of trading." The market reacted strongly to the regulatory investigation and investors began to panic sell. Harrison's thumb swiped across the screen and the reply was simple: "Keep watching. This is just the beginning." Over the next few days, the dominoes fell exactly as Harrison had planned. In just 1 week, 3 of Nathan's major projects faced regulatory shutdowns one after the other, and business partners who had once flocked to him now smelled failure and began to quietly drift away. Every phone call, every document, every meeting further dismantles Nathan's carefully constructed business empire. When James arrived at Harrison's house that evening, the rays of the setting sun were coloring the dim gold. He walked in with a stack of papers and a stony expression, his suit jacket slung casually over his arm, clearly having had a long day. "The audit report came back on those boutiques Charlotte frequents," he said as he poured the whiskey. "And you're right, their books are like a tangled ball of wool, riddled with holes and questionable cash flow." Harrison looked up from behind his desk. "Anonymous tip?" "It's done." James sipped his wine. "The IRS has shown particular interest in their cash handling procedures. You should have seen the investigator's eyes, like a hungry wolf spotting a flock." Harrison scrutinized a file detailing Charlotte's recent purchases, and the numbers were alarming. "She's always liked to splurge on other people's money. Now let's see how this greedy lady responds when the well runs dry." In her room, which was set up like a command center, Emily continued to monitor every fluctuation in the digital realm. Multiple screens simultaneously display social media updates, news stories, and financial data. The internet was awash with rumors about Brooks Development's woes, but suddenly something set off her alarm: a series of worried posts from her father's investors. "Dad," she said as she walked briskly into the study to find Harrison, who was having a discussion with James, "I think we have a problem. People are starting to wonder if your program has similar problems. Panic is spreading in the market." Harrison nodded slowly, no hint of panic on his face. "Victor is already on it. Total transparency. We're opening up all accounts and sites to inspection. Unlike Nathan, we don't have to hide anything. Sometimes the best defense is complete honesty." As he was talking, the phone rang and the caller ID showed Nathan Brooks' private number. The air in the room froze momentarily. Harrison pressed the speakerphone button so everyone could hear. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" Nathan's voice twisted with anger, almost a growl. "All these anonymous reports, the problems with the inspectors, you think I don't know who's behind them?" "Nathan, it's unfortunate." Harrison's voice remained calm with a hint of faux sympathy. "Perhaps if you had spent your time overseeing the construction instead of courting someone else's wife, none of this would have happened. Business, like relationships, requires focus. I swear I'll destroy you, Mitchell. Just you wait." "Better men than you have tried." Harrison's voice remained calm, but with an icy smirk. "By the way, how have your shares been doing lately?" Nathan responded with a series of curses that were hard to repeat. Harrison calmly ended the call and turned to see Emily looking at him thoughtfully. "He sounds scared," she observed keenly, "like a wild animal trapped in a corner." "He should be afraid," Harrison said as he pulled up an encrypted file on his computer, "because his board of directors will receive this tomorrow." The documents detail Brooks Development's various violations over the years: cutting corners, safety violations, and false inspection reports. Each accusation is backed up by James' carefully collected documents, like a giant spiderweb that holds Nathan captive. "But the real killer blow," Harrison continued, clicking on another folder, "came from here." He pulled a series of email exchanges showing records of suspicious financial transactions between Nathan and government officials. Emily moved closer to the screen and scrutinized the damning evidence. "Where did all this come from?" "This information is a ticking time bomb. Nathan's not the only one with connections," Harrison said with an impish smile. "But he's the only one stupid enough to leave all the evidence in an email. Arrogance makes people careless." Early the next morning, Harrison receives an urgent call from Victor just as he arrives at the office. "It's done. The board just had an emergency meeting, and they're voting to suspend Nathan pending an investigation. Shareholders smell blood, and nobody wants to be tied to a sinking ship." And another thing, Victor continued, 3 of those favorite boutiques of your ex-wife's have been subjected to surprise tax audits, and I've heard the scenes are quite impressive. The audits of the other stores follow next week. As we were talking, a text message arrived from James. You've got to see this. Attached is a surveillance video showing Charlotte attempting to use her credit card at an upscale store and having every card declined. In the video, she becomes increasingly agitated and eventually has to be politely but firmly asked to leave the house by security in full view of the crowd. Going to leak this? James asked in a follow-up message. Not yet, Harrison replies. Let her shame remain private. When the time comes, we'll show everyone her true colors. That afternoon, Harrison called a meeting with his own investors. In stark contrast to Nathan's panic damage control, Harrison earned trust with full facts, detailed data, and complete transparency. The conference room was filled with stony-faced investors, but their expressions gradually relaxed as Harrison spoke. I fully understand your concerns, he said, his voice smooth and confident, which is why I took the initiative to invite an independent auditor to examine all of our programs. Unlike some in the industry, we firmly believe that true success is built on integrity. The conference ended with renewed investor confidence in Harrison's leadership. As attendees were leaving, one senior investor quietly stayed behind. Brooks tried to contact me yesterday, he said, lowering his voice, to talk about transferring some of our projects to his company. Harrison's expression rippled. How did you answer? I told him, the investor gave a sneer, that I don't make deals with ships that are about to sink. Meanwhile, Charlotte's world is falling apart. Her regular beauty salon suddenly cancels her regular appointments. Her favorite boutique closes temporarily due to a tax audit. And even her favored Michelin restaurant seems perpetually booked. This week, for the 7th time, she was denied a credit card, and a sense of shame she had never experienced before began to consume her. When she angrily breaks into the once proud country club, she is stopped at the door. I'm terribly sorry, Mrs. Mitchell, the manager said, in a tone that didn't seem apologetic at all. Your membership appears to have been suspended. Pause. Charlotte raised her voice incredulously. Do you know who I am? Yes, ma'am, the manager replied calmly. That's exactly the problem. Humiliated, Charlotte retreats to Nathan's penthouse, only to find the atmosphere even worse. Nathan is on the verge of a complete meltdown, and she sees him slamming expensive crystal glasses against the wall as soon as she walks in the door. They suspended me. Nathan ranted hysterically. I own the board. Now they're talking about launching a criminal investigation. Nathan, we need to calm down and think dash. Thinking. Nathan turned to her, a mad glint in his eyes. Thinking while your fucking ex-husband systematically destroys my life's work? He grabbed Charlotte's arm roughly, with such force that she yelped out in shock. If I'm done, you're done. Remember that. Back at the Mitchell house, Harrison reviews the thrilling day with James and Victor in the den. The fire from the fireplace added a touch of warmth to the room, contrasting with what they were talking about. Brooks' board of directors has voted to suspend him, Victor reported over a glass of whiskey, and the preliminary results of the regulatory investigation have alarmed them. There is talk of bringing in forensic accountants to do a full audit. Those boutiques that Charlotte frequented, James added. 3 have already received formal audit notices, and the others are scrambling to clean up their books. Honestly, I've never seen so many businesses so forthcoming with a tax investigation. Good. Harrison examined the stack of newly delivered papers. What's the news from Sarah? Still playing her double role, James confirmed, giving Charlotte seemingly supportive advice while gathering more information behind the scenes in our favor. Perfect. Harrison's smile took on an icy satisfaction. Let her continue. It's time for everyone to see Charlotte Mitchell for what she really is. The flames in the fireplace pulsed, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Harrison's plan for revenge has entered its most critical phase. The financial hit was just the beginning. Now it's time for those who betrayed him to break down completely. Outside the window, the city lights are on, but for some, darkness is about to fall. The fire in the fireplace dimmed and the city outside the window fell into night. Harrison was about to call it a long day when, suddenly, his security system sounded an alarm. On the surveillance screen, Several men in black are approaching the house. Harrison's eyes sharpened instantly. "Get Emily to the safe room now," he ordered James, with undeniable authority in his voice. James acted quickly while Harrison walked briskly towards his study. Just then, a loud crash came from the backyard, the sound of shattering glass piercing the quiet of the night sky. Harrison activated the contingency plans he had already prepared, knowing that this day would eventually come. The security team responded quickly and professionally. At their skillful disposal, the thugs, obviously hired by Nathan, were quickly subdued. The sirens sounded from far away and Harrison stood at the window, coldly watching the men being escorted to the police car. "Is Emily okay?" he asked James, who was guarding the doorway. "She's safe," James nodded. "In fact, she's in the safe room tracking down the source of these people's funds." A sneer appeared at the corner of Harrison's mouth. "Nathan always makes the same mistakes, always leaves evidence behind." By the next morning, the news had spread throughout the city. The headline, "Prominent real estate developer suspected of hiring killers to attack business rivals," dominated the front pages of major media outlets. Nathan's lawyers were busy issuing statements denying the allegations, but the security footage and bank transfer records say it all. "What did they find?" Harrison asked Emily, who was checking her laptop. "All the payments were done through offshore accounts," Emily explained, fingers moving quickly across the keyboard. "But they forgot to cover up the middle ground. I've sent the evidence to the police." Just then Victor hurried in. "You guys need to see this." He opens his tablet and Charlotte is being interviewed on a morning news program, tearfully describing how she is a victim of all this. "I'm just a poor woman persecuted by my rich and powerful ex-husband," she sobbed. "He couldn't accept that I was pursuing true love, so he used his power and money to destroy us." Harrison calmly watched the entire interview. "Ready for those recordings?" "It's all in place," James replied, including her admission to stealing Emily's trust fund. In less than an hour, tons of audio clips appeared on social media. Charlotte's voice clearly reveals how she orchestrated the use of two men, how she embezzled her daughter's education fund for luxuries, and her callous disregard for family bonds. The tide of public opinion instantly reversed. "That's not all," Emily said. "Sarah sent me some interesting stuff." Sarah, Charlotte's closest friend, has been secretly gathering evidence against her. However, she doesn't realize that she's fallen into Harrison's trap as well. Emily pulls up a series of screenshots showing how Sarah is trying to fish out of the storm by spreading rumors in different social circles. "She thinks she's so smart," Harrison commented. "And playing two-faced pie in this situation is the dumbest choice of all." Later that afternoon, what Sarah had done came to light. Her carefully maintained image as a social queen falls apart in the face of overwhelming evidence. Social circle after social circle has closed its doors to her, and former allies have set aside their relationships with her. Nathan tried to justify the violence by holding a press conference accompanied by his lawyer. But he's clearly unable to control his emotions, ranting and raving about his threats against Harrison on camera. The disastrous performance made headlines on major news sites. "He's falling apart," Emily observed, "like a trapped animal." "Trapped animals are the most dangerous," Harrison warned. "Beef up security. I won't let anyone threaten your safety." Charlotte tried to contact Harrison again. This time her tone changed completely. "Please, Harrison," she choked out. "I have nothing left. At least let me explain." "Explain what?" Harrison's voice was cold as ice. "Explain how you betrayed your family? Explain how you stole your daughter's future? Or explain how your new love sent someone to hurt her?" There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. "I didn't know he would do that." "You never cared about the consequences, Charlotte. Now you've had plenty of time to think about them." Sarah also tries to salvage the situation. She showed up in Harrison's office, her makeup elaborate but hardly hiding her exhaustion. "Harrison, I can explain." "No need," Harrison interrupted her. "Your explanation is already in those emails." "Tell me, Sarah, when you expressed sympathy to Charlotte, were you already thinking of ways to use that information?" "I was just protecting myself," she defended. "No, you were playing with fire. And now, you're getting burned. The whole city's high society is talking about this fiasco." Those who once gravitated to the other side of the fence now avoid it for fear of being caught in the storm. Nathan's business empire falters under the weight of successive blows. His partners pull out and projects come to a standstill. The latest news from the police is that those attackers have begun to give an account of who was behind them. Nathan faces new criminal charges, and his attorneys have begun discussing the possibility of a plea deal. Is this the end? Emily asked, watching her father organize the latest report. No, Harrison said mildly. This is just the beginning of the path they've chosen for themselves. Betrayal always comes with a price, and they'll soon learn just how high that price is. That night, Harrison was in his study reviewing the developments of the past few weeks. Every step of the way, from the initial betrayal to the present, has been under his control. Nathan's violent retaliation not only failed, it hastened his destruction. Charlotte's media performance backfired and cost her the last of her sympathy. And Sarah gets what she deserves for her duplicitous behavior. Trust our security system? Emily asked as she walked in. I trust you more than the system, Harrison said. You're the one who foresaw Nathan's possible retaliation and prepared in advance. Emily sat across from her father. I learned the most important lesson of all. What? Never betray someone worth trusting, she said, because the price is too high. Harrison looked at his daughter and saw the determination in her eyes. The storm has made her more mature and brought them closer together. And those who tried to hurt them are paying for their choices right now. Outside the window, the city lights are on, but for some the darkness is just beginning. 10 years later, on a fall afternoon, Harrison Mitchell stood at the podium of the Architects Association's annual awards ceremony to accept the Lifetime Achievement Award. At the age of 55, his temples are elegantly silvered, but he still has an aura that can't be ignored and a reputation that's even greater than it was a decade ago. Success is not built on compromise, he said to the packed audience on stage, his voice steady and strong. It's built on never-wavering principles and absolute loyalty. The audience applauded enthusiastically, unaware of the deeper meaning behind those words. From the front seat, Emily Mitchell, now 25, gazed at her father with pride in her eyes. Over the years, she has grown into a remarkable woman whose talent and determination are reflected in every move. As technical director of Mitchell Construction Enterprises, she has taken the company's technical capabilities to unprecedented heights. After the awards ceremony, father and daughter met in Harrison's private office. It is located in the headquarters building of Mitchell Construction Enterprises, now one of the largest construction companies in the country. Wonderful speech, Dad, Emily said, gracefully settling into her usual seat. As the company's head of technology, she has not only reformed the company's technological capabilities, but she maintains the same vigilance as she did 10 years ago, guarding everything they've built together. How's the foundation doing these days? Harrison asked, referring to the Mitchell Family Foundation they'd started, an organization dedicated to helping children from broken homes. Steaming ahead, Emily pulled up the data on her tablet. We're opening 3 new assistance centers next month. To date, we have helped over 10,000 families. Harrison nodded in satisfaction. They managed to turn their past wounds into a meaningful cause, though his stance on betrayal never softened. Heard anything recent about Nathan Brooks? Emily asked, her tone calm. Harrison's expression is slightly somber. Nathan Brooks has been released from prison 2 years after serving an 8-year sentence, and his once glorious business empire has long since been reduced to ashes. All attempts at rebuilding hit a wall, and Harrison's influence ensured that he would always be an outcast in the business world. He tried to approach one of our small contractors, Emily continued, and they immediately declined his offer and reported the incident to us. Very well, Harrison's voice still carried the steel determination of 10 years ago. Some debts can never be paid. The conversation turned to Charlotte's recent past. After serving 5 years for financial fraud, she tries to rebuild her life in another city. But her former social status is gone, and her former friends have long since abandoned her. The latest news reveals that she works as a saleswoman in an ordinary department store, a stark contrast to the lavish life she used to lead. She wrote to the foundation again, Emily mentioned, and this time I've taken care of it. She won't be contacting us again. James Walker walked into the office, now a senior partner in their law firm, but still Harrison's most trusted advisor. Over the years, their friendship has grown stronger through the trials of loyalty. Anderson's merger is ready, he announced, then flashed a smile. But that can wait. We're here to celebrate tonight. Harrison allowed himself a small smile. Over the years, the annual dinner has become a tradition, gathering those who have proven their loyalty through the years. Sarah's name occasionally appeared in social columns, but her influence never recovered. This lesson taught everyone that betrayal has consequences that last a lifetime. That evening, Harrison's spacious mansion was filled with trusted friends and colleagues. This party represents the new life he has built, a life built on earned trust and proven loyalty. Remember that reporter Olivia Bennett? James asked over dinner. She's writing a book on business ethics and wants to interview you again. Harrison considered it. Years ago, Olivia's article was unbiased, presenting the facts and allowing the reader to make his or her own judgment about justice and revenge. Arrange it, he decided. Some stories deserve to be told. Emily was talking to the young technologist she was training when she looked over at her father, and they exchanged a knowing look. The past shaped them, but did not define them. The name Mitchell now stands for more than revenge. It stands for excellence, integrity, and never-wavering principles. Harrison builds a bigger empire than Nathan Brooks ever imagined, and his enemies are reduced to cautionary tales. Those who betrayed him are now nothing more than discreet whispers in social settings. Dad, Emily approached him later in the evening. I've been thinking about expanding the foundation. We need programs to help people rebuild their lives after experiencing betrayal. Harrison gazed at his daughter, smart, strong, and with the kind of steel in her bones that he had taught her. Tell me more. As they discuss their future plans, Harrison looks back on the past decade. His revenge is complete, but it also becomes a beginning. He showed the world the importance of loyalty, the cost of betrayal, and the power that comes from standing up for your principles. In his private study hangs a framed essay, The Price of Betrayal, The Saga of Mitchell by Olivia Bennett. It is a reminder to all that justice, though cold, is always inevitable. Word came in the morning light the next day that Nathan Brooks had been seen at a cheap bar getting drunk alone and mumbling about past glories. His attempt to publish his memoirs was rejected by his publisher, and his story is only valuable as a cautionary tale. Don't mess with the wrong opponent. Harrison calmly reads through the report, long past the satisfaction that comes with revenge. The continued suffering of our enemies is simply the natural result of their choices. When his assistant informed that Emily's team had discovered someone trying to access old company files, traced to a location from Charlotte, he simply ordered, "Follow procedure." That afternoon, he presided over a board meeting to show the company's growth plans. The room reveres him as strongly as it did a decade ago, if not more so, as his reputation for excellence and resolute response to betrayal has taken hold. The Brooks development property we acquired has been completely remodeled, reports the vice president of operations, and all traces of the previous owner have been eliminated. Harrison nodded in satisfaction. He systematically acquired and rebuilt everything Nathan once owned, turning failed projects into successful developments that became monuments to his triumphs. In the evening, he reviews applications for the Foundation Scholarship Program. Each story of a child affected by betrayal reinforces his beliefs. "These kids deserve a chance," Emily said, joining her father's review. "Just like you gave me a chance." Harrison looked at his daughter, his greatest accomplishment, his staunchest ally. "We give them more than opportunities, we teach them strength." These years have proven that well-executed revenge not only destroys, but builds. The Mitchell Empire is proof of this, and the continued withering of their enemies is a warning to all who contemplate betrayal. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.